It's 1:57 a.m. You finally turn the lights off. You're not thinking about anything dramatic. Then your brain throws a clip on the screen inside your head. An old moment you wish never happened. A mispronounced word, a dumb joke that landed flat, a meeting where you froze, a time you waved at someone who wasn't waving at you, and your body reacts like it's happening now. Your face gets hot, your chest tightens, you roll over like a different pillow can erase the memory. It doesn't. The scene restarts. Different camera angle, different line of dialogue, same punch in the stomach. Here's the question. Why does your brain choose midnight to torture you with embarrassment? Because at night, your mind stops doing tasks and starts doing maintenance. During the day, your attention is rented out. Work, messages, noise, people. Even if you're stressed, you're busy. At night, the noise drops. The brain finally has bandwidth. And when it has bandwidth, it opens unfinished files. Embarrassment is an unfinished file. Not because you did something illegal or evil, but because embarrassment is a social injury. It's the feeling of being exposed, of being seen in a way you didn't choose. Your brain treats that as a risk because social status has always mattered. For most of human history, losing face could mean losing safety, not awkward, unsafe. So the brain stores embarrassing moments with extra tags, not just memory, but warning. And warnings return when the brain thinks you have time to listen. That's why it shows up at night. Not because you're weak, because the brain is running a threat review. Now watch what your mind does next. It doesn't simply replay the moment, it edits it. It inserts new lines you wish you said. It highlights every micro detail you hate. It zooms in on the faces of other people. Were they judging you? Did they notice? Did they laugh? Did they remember? This is where overthinking begins. You're not reliving the past. You're trying to predict the future. Your brain is asking, if this happened again, how do we avoid it? And it's not satisfied with simple answers. It wants control. So it searches for a rule. Don't speak up. Don't take risks. Don't look stupid. Stay quiet. Stay safe. The problem is, embarrassment doesn't follow clean rules. It's messy. It can happen even when you do everything right. So your brain keeps replaying, hoping repetition will produce certainty. That's the first trap. Replay feels like problem solving, but it's actually rehearsing shame. And shame is sticky. The more you replay with emotion, the stronger the pathway becomes. The memory doesn't fade, it gets better lighting, better sound, higher resolution. You've probably noticed the timing. It hits hardest right when you're about to fall asleep. That's not random. Sleep is when the brain starts organizing the day and reshuffling memory. If there's a danger tag on a scene, it gets pulled forward for review. Your brain is trying to decide what to keep, what to weaken, what to learn. But you interrupt the process by fighting the scene. You say, "Why am I like this?" You start insulting yourself. You start building a story. I'm awkward. I'm cringe. I'm broken. That story adds new pain to the old moment. Now the memory has two layers, the event and the self-attack. And here's a quiet truth. The self-attack often hurts more than the original embarrassment. Because the original moment might have lasted 10 seconds, the replay can last 2 hours. Here's what makes it feel unfair. Your brain doesn't replay your wins with the same intensity. It doesn't wake you up to celebrate a compliment from 5 years ago. It wakes you up to rehearse failure, because failure is what your brain thinks you must avoid. And the night gives it the perfect theater: darkness, silence, and no distractions. So it plays the clip on repeat, not to humiliate you, but to warn you. The problem is, warnings without action turn into rumination, not safety ever. So in part 1, we've identified the pattern. Late night quiet gives your brain room, and embarrassment is tagged as a social threat, so it gets reviewed. But that still doesn't explain the physical punch, the racing heart, the heat, the dread. In part 2, we go inside the mechanism that turns a memory into a body alarm, and why sleep deprivation makes embarrassment feel 10 times bigger than it really is. When an embarrassing memory hits, you think the problem is the memory, but the real problem is the signal your brain attaches to it. This could happen again. That signal flips your nervous system into scanning mode. Here's the simplest way to understand it. Your brain has 2 speeds. One is planning, the other is protecting. In the day, planning dominates, schedules, tasks, goals. At night, protecting shows up because you're vulnerable. You're alone, you're quiet, you're tired. Your brain starts checking for threats, physical and social. Embarrassment is a social threat, so it gets pulled into the spotlight. Now add sleep deprivation, even a little. Less sleep means your frontal control system gets weaker. That system is the part of you that says, "This is old, it's fine, let it go." When it's tired, it loses volume. Meanwhile, the emotional system, the part that reacts fast, gets louder. So the same memory that felt mildly annoying at 3 p.m. can feel like a disaster at 2 a.m. This is why people spiral at night, not because the facts change, but because your brain's balance changes. One more thing makes night replay brutal. Your brain hates silence after social pain. In daylight, you can replace the feeling with activity. At night, your only tool is thinking, so the brain thinks harder. It tries to earn safety by analyzing. That's why you get the sudden urge to send another message, to post something, to prove you're fine. Those impulses aren't random. They're your nervous system reaching for a quick certainty fix. But certainty is temporary, so the brain returns to the same scene, like a dog circling a wound. And your brain doesn't replay the scene once. It runs it like a training simulator. It asks, "What did you say? What did they see? What did you signal? What mistake did you make? How do we prevent that pain again?" That's protective logic, but it backfires. Because the brain can't travel to the past to fix it, so it keeps looping. Then the loop creates a new problem: uncertainty. Your brain starts guessing how other people remember you, and because you can't know, you assume the worst. That assumption feels safer because disappointment hurts less when you expected it. This is the pessimism trick. If you predict rejection, you won't be surprised by it. But the cost is anxiety. Now, here's the mid-build suspense beat. Why does the brain pick one specific embarrassing moment, not all of them? Because some moments threaten identity. An identity threat is bigger than an awkward moment. It's a scene that whispers, "Maybe you're not who you think you are. Maybe you're not competent. Maybe you're not likable. Maybe you're not respected. Maybe you're not attractive." The brain replays identity threats because it wants to repair the image. So you start negotiating with the past. You rewrite the script. You imagine alternative outcomes. You picture yourself saying the perfect line. That fantasy gives a tiny dopamine hit. It feels like progress, like you regained control. But the moment ends and reality returns. You can't change the clip. So the brain goes back to scanning. This is where the night replay becomes addictive. You keep chasing the one version of the scene where you look perfect, because that version would calm you. And when you can't reach it, you chase harder. That's the second trap. The brain turns self-image into a reward. And there's a third trap hiding underneath: attention bias. When you replay embarrassment, you teach your brain to look for embarrassment. The next day, you become hyper-aware of how you sound, how you stand, how people react. You interpret neutral faces as judgment. You start performing. You start over-monitoring. The weird part is, this can create more awkward moments because self-monitoring makes you stiff. You lose flow. You lose spontaneity. You become a person watching yourself be a person. So the night replay doesn't just hurt at night, it shapes your next day. Now we reach the twist point we need before part 3. What if the brain isn't replaying to punish you, but to protect you from something happening right now? Because the brain rarely wastes energy on the past unless it thinks the present is risky. In part 3, we flip the story. The embarrassing moment is often a mask for a current fear, and the way you respond to the replay decides whether it fades or becomes a lifelong loop. Here's the mid-twist. The memory isn't always the real target. Often, the replay is your brain's way of saying, "We feel exposed again." Maybe you have a presentation tomorrow. Maybe you're starting a new job. Maybe someone important hasn't replied to you. Maybe you're lonely. Maybe you're under pressure. Your brain doesn't always label present stress clearly, especially at night. So it pulls a familiar scene that matches the feeling of exposure. Embarrassment becomes a metaphor your nervous system understands. That's why the replay can feel random. It isn't random. It's pattern matching. Your brain is linking tomorrow risk to past exposure and using the past as a warning flare. Now, if that's true, why does the scene keep repeating instead of resolving? Because your brain wants a completion signal. In psychology, unfinished tasks and unanswered questions stick. A scene without closure stays active. Embarrassment often has no closure. Nobody says, "We all forgot." Nobody gives you a certificate that says, "You're safe now." So the brain keeps the file open. And here's the ending twist. The way you fight the memory can keep it open longer. If you want a mental shortcut, think of embarrassment as social pain with a lesson attached. Your brain wants the lesson, but it keeps confusing lesson with punishment. A lesson is, next time, slow down. Punishment is, you are the kind of person who ruins things. Punishment creates more threat, so the brain reviews more, so you feel worse, so you review again. That's the loop. The most common trigger is not the event itself, it's comparison. You remember the moment you looked foolish, then you imagine everyone else looking confident. That imagined gap fuels the replay, even if it isn't true. And because the clip is old, your brain can't test it against reality. It can only test it against imagination. Imagination is extreme. It never includes the boring truth. Most people were busy thinking about themselves, not judging you. That detail alone changes everything. When you replay and insult yourself, you add emotion and you add importance. Your brain learns, this matters, keep it. When you replay and search for certainty, you teach your brain, this is solvable if we keep trying. So it tries again tomorrow night. This is why some people say, I've been haunted by that moment for years. It's not the moment, it's the training. Now, let's make this practical without turning it into therapy. If you want to reduce night replays, the goal isn't to erase memory. The goal is to change what the memory means. Instead of treating the replay like a verdict, treat it like an alarm. Alarms can be false. An alarm doesn't prove danger, it proves sensitivity. So when the clip appears, the most powerful move is labeling. This is my brain doing a threat review. That label adds distance. Distance lowers intensity. Then you look for the real present signal. Ask one simple question. What feels uncertain in my life right now? That question closes the loop faster than replaying dialogue from 2017. Because the brain wants safety, not perfect wording. And safety comes from clarity in the present. Another reason nights amplify embarrassment is that you're missing context. At 2 a.m., you can't check reality. You can't ask someone, do you remember that? You can't correct the story. So your mind fills the gap with worst-case assumptions. That's why morning often makes it feel smaller. The same event hasn't changed, your context has. Now, let's bring it back to the hook. That hot face, tight chest feeling is a body trying to protect your social identity. It's ancient software. It doesn't know you're in a bedroom, it thinks you're in a tribe. So here's the satisfying close. Embarrassment replays at night because your brain is trying to keep you included. It's trying to stop you from being rejected again. It's clumsy, but the intention is survival. And when you see that intention, the shame loses power. You stop saying, I'm broken. You start saying, my brain is overprotective. That's a different story. And stories matter, because stories decide what the brain tags as danger. Before you go, here's the pinned question for the comments. What moment does your brain replay the most, and what time does it usually hit? Next episode, we'll go deeper into why certain memories feel HD, why your brain can replay one sentence for years, and how social media turns embarrassment into a loop you can't close.